When most people picture Japan, it feels almost like a beautiful illusion, images that seem plucked from a futuristic dream. Sleek bullet trains slicing effortlessly through emerald landscapes, moving with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel. Towering skylines ablaze with neon lights, where vending machines and humanoid robots coexist alongside centuries-old temples. Delicate cherry blossoms fluttering in the wind, painting the streets with soft pink, as if nature itself were throwing confetti from another universe. A country where everything seems engineered for perfection. Clean, efficient, orderly, safe. But what if I told you, that's just the postcard? Beneath the dazzling glow of neon, behind the quiet hum of automation and polite bows, there's another Japan. A hidden Japan. A side rarely photographed, almost never shown to the world. A Japan that doesn't appear in glossy travel guides or cheerful tourism campaigns. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Secret Journeys channel to explore the world and various exotic places for free. In this unseen story, thousands of elderly people live alone, surrounded by silence so profound it echoes. Some of them feel so isolated, so invisible, that they deliberately commit small, non-violent crimes, just to get sent to prison. Why? Because in jail, someone will finally talk to them. Someone will notice they exist. There are entire districts where poverty hides in plain sight, neighborhoods the government doesn't officially recognize on any map. Slums tucked beneath the steel and glass of the world's most advanced cities. And in the shadows of Japan's gleaming metropolis, you'll find people sleeping in tiny booths inside 24-hour internet cafes. Not for entertainment, but because they simply can't afford an apartment. This isn't the Japan most visitors see. It's not the story many locals want to tell. And yet, it's real. But this isn't about criticizing Japan. It's not an exposé meant to tear down or ridicule. This is about peeling back the layers. About understanding that every society wears two faces. One it proudly shows the world, and another it quietly hides, even from itself. Because behind every shining skyscraper, every technological marvel, there are always those left standing in the shadows. And in seeing Japan's hidden face, we touch a deeper, universal truth. Progress doesn't always carry everyone forward. No matter how high the buildings rise, some people still fall through the cracks. And nowhere is this more heartbreakingly clear than in a crisis that doesn't involve war, famine, or economic collapse, but something far quieter. Something invisible. A crisis of disappearing babies. In 2022, Japan recorded fewer than 800,000 births, the lowest number since the country began keeping track. To grasp the scale of that, consider this. In the same year, nearly twice as many people died in Japan as were born. In some small towns, years go by without a single newborn. In one remote village, the birth of a child made front-page news, not because of royal bloodlines or celebrity status, but because it had been 2 full decades since the last baby was born. And here's a jaw-dropping fact. Today, Japan sells more adult diapers than baby diapers. Pause and let that sink in. This is the same nation that, just a few generations ago, pulled itself from the ashes of atomic devastation to become an economic powerhouse, a country admired for its resilience, its work ethic, its technological genius. And yet, Japan isn't being brought to its knees by war or hunger. It's being undone by something quieter, almost poetic, silence. But why? On paper, Japan has tried so many solutions. The government offers generous incentives to encourage families, cash bonuses, tax breaks, childcare subsidies. Parental leave policies have been expanded. Efforts have been made to ease the burden of raising children. And still, the numbers continue to drop. The problem isn't just financial. It runs deeper, woven into the culture itself. It's about pressure, expectation, isolation. Many young Japanese find themselves caught between two crushing forces. On one side, a society that demands tireless dedication to work, to the company, to duty, where personal sacrifice is praised as a virtue. On the other side, fleeting escapes into digital fantasies, virtual worlds that offer a temporary break from overwhelming responsibility but never solve the emptiness underneath. How do you build a family in a world where time, energy, and hope feel like luxuries? Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Secret Journeys channel to explore the world and various exotic places for free. It's not that Japanese youth don't value love or family. It's that many don't see how to make it fit inside a system that feels immovable. For some, the cost of living, the demand to succeed, the fear of failing as a parent or provider, feels so daunting that the idea of raising a child becomes almost impossible. For others, it's the loneliness, living in micro-apartments, working long hours, going days without meaningful conversation. Imagine facing a future where your entire society seems to be quietly aging, shrinking, fading, where playgrounds stand empty, where maternity wards close because there's no one left to fill the cribs, where a single child's laughter echoes through an entire village. And yet, this isn't just a Japanese story. This is a mirror reflecting a challenge many modern societies are beginning to face. A world where technological advancement surges ahead, but human connection struggles to keep pace. A world where the pursuit of progress sometimes leaves little room for the most basic, fragile parts of life: love, family, belonging. So here's my question for you. What does it truly mean to build a future? Is it skyscrapers and bullet trains, or is it something much quieter? Tell me what you think in the comments. And if this journey into Japan's hidden face has opened your eyes, even a little, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because the stories the world tries to hide are the ones we need to tell the most. And this is only the beginning. Marriage in Japan is no longer the given path it once was. The numbers tell a striking story. Today, over 40% of Japanese adults in their 30s have never been married. And for many, it's not just about waiting, it's about opting out entirely. A 2023 government survey revealed something even more surprising. More than a quarter of Japanese men aged 16 to 24 say they're not interested in romantic or sexual relationships at all. Some even feel repelled by the idea. There's a name for this quiet withdrawal: Sekusu Shurnai Shokugun, known in English as celibacy syndrome. Rather than pursuing love, marriage, or building a family, many young Japanese men have turned inward. Some escape into the vibrant worlds of anime and manga, building attachments to virtual girlfriends instead of real ones. Others retreat entirely, choosing solitude over intimacy. And for some, the craving for connection is so profound, so unmet, that they're willing to pay, not for intimacy, but for something even more basic. There are businesses where a man can rent an hour of simply laying his head on a woman's lap. No expectations. No ulterior motives. Just warmth. Just eye contact. Just the human closeness that feels out of reach in everyday life. Meanwhile, across the ocean, countries like the United States are grappling with their own falling birth rates. But in America, the conversation often revolves around career goals, balancing work and family, or debates over reproductive rights. In Japan, the story runs deeper. It's not just about individual choice, it's a quiet exhaustion woven into the fabric of the culture. A collective weariness born from decades of hyper-efficiency, rigid social roles, and emotional isolation. In a society where harmony is valued above all else, personal desires are often silenced for the greater good. And the consequences of that silence? They're everywhere. Schools are closing, not because of budget cuts, but because there simply aren't enough children to fill the classrooms. Toy stores are disappearing, left without customers. Entire towns are being swallowed back by nature, their streets overgrown, their homes empty. And in some rural areas, the absence of people is so haunting that villagers have begun creating life-size dolls to stand in their place, posing them at bus stops, on park swings, inside abandoned classrooms. These aren't quirky decorations. They're quiet monuments to a generation that never arrived. A tender, eerie tribute to lives never lived. This isn't just a population problem. It's a profound societal reckoning. Because if there aren't enough young people to inherit the future, who will care for the millions already left behind? Japan is aging faster than any other country on Earth. Today, nearly 1 in 3 Japanese citizens is over 65. And by 2050, that number is projected to climb to almost 40%. On the surface, this might sound like a success story, a triumph of modern medicine, healthy eating, and clean living. Japan boasts one of the highest life expectancies in the world. But with longevity comes a shadow. What happens when you live to 90? But your spouse is gone, your children live hours away, and your neighbors have vanished. For millions of elderly Japanese, this isn't a philosophical question. It's their daily reality. There's even a word for it, kodakushi, which translates to lonely death. Every year in Japan, thousands of seniors die alone in their homes, their absence unnoticed for days, sometimes even weeks. Their departure so quiet that no one realizes they're gone until the smell seeps through the walls or bills go unpaid. Once, Japan's families were multi-generational, with elders cared for under one roof. But today, independence, urban migration, and tiny silent apartments have replaced that model. In a culture where asking for help can feel like an admission of weakness, many seniors fade quietly into the background, until it's too late. And the numbers keep rising. In Tokyo, entire industries have sprung up to meet this silent crisis. Cleaning crews that specialize in posthumous apartment cleanups, restoring the spaces of people who left this world unseen. Workers trained not just to scrub walls, but to erase the traces of a lonely passing. Japan's social safety net wasn't built for this. It was designed for a different era, an era when children cared for their parents, when few people lived past 85, when community ties were stronger than concrete. But today, the system strains under the weight of a population that's living longer, but not necessarily living better. And here's the haunting question I want you to think about. What happens when a nation forgets how to care for its elders? When technology advances, but loneliness grows? When progress lifts the country, but leaves the people behind? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. And if this story opened your eyes to a Japan rarely seen, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because the stories no one wants to talk about are the ones we need to tell the most. Stay with me. There's so much more beneath the surface. Today, for many elderly Japanese, survival feels like a delicate balancing act, living on a monthly pension of just $700 to $1,000. But in cities like Tokyo, where the cost of living ranks among the highest in the world, that money disappears fast. Rent alone can swallow half of it. Add food, medication, utilities, and suddenly there's nothing left. Nursing homes? Many are already overcrowded, understaffed, overwhelmed. Waiting lists stretch on for months, sometimes years. And even when a space opens up, it's often too expensive for families already stretched thin. Japan's work culture leaves little time for caregiving. Sons and daughters grinding through 12-hour workdays can't afford to quit their jobs to care for aging parents. And out of pride, shame, or a deep cultural reluctance to burden others, many elders won't even ask for help. Now, compare this with countries like the United States. There, while systems like Medicare and Social Security are far from perfect, they at least offer nationwide safety nets, alongside community centers, volunteer networks, and social programs aimed at keeping seniors connected. In Japan, the speed of population aging has outrun the system designed to support it. The infrastructure hasn't caught up. The safety net has holes. And if you've ever walked the bustling streets of Kyoto or Tokyo, you've probably passed them without knowing. An elderly woman quietly sitting on a park bench, gazing into nothing. An old man methodically sweeping the sidewalk outside a shuttered shop. You might not have noticed them, but they noticed you. Many aren't asking for handouts. They're not begging. They just want to be seen. One elderly man interviewed in Osaka put it simply, I speak maybe 5 words a day, sometimes to the TV, sometimes just to myself. These are the very people who built the Japan we admire today. They laid the foundations of the bullet train. They raised the skyscrapers. They worked through Japan's post-war devastation, rebuilding the country into an economic miracle. And now, in their final chapter, they sit in the shadows, quietly overlooked by the very society they helped create. But some refuse to vanish quietly. Some are making choices that, at first glance, seem almost unthinkable. In fact, a growing number are turning to something most of us would never expect. They're choosing prison. In most parts of the world, prison is a place of punishment, a last resort, a consequence of wrongdoing. But in Japan, for a small but growing segment of the elderly population, prison has become a fallback plan. Meet Mr. Shigemi. He's 78 years old. Polite. Soft-spoken. Come. Over the past decade, he's been arrested 13 times. Every time, it's for the same quiet crime, petty theft. Once, it was a rice ball. Another time, a pack of batteries. Never anything violent. Never anything worth more than a few dollars. And every time, he's arrested with one quiet goal: to go back to prison. "I don't want to cause trouble," he told reporters. "But I have no family, no money, no one to talk to. In prison, I get 3 meals a day. I see a doctor. And I'm not alone." Let that sink in. Mr. Shigemi isn't an outlier. He's part of a growing trend. Over the past 20 years, Japan has seen a sharp rise in crimes committed by people over 65. Today, nearly 1 in 4 arrests in Japan involves a senior citizen. That number has more than quadrupled since the 1990s. They call them silver crimes. These aren't crimes born out of malice. They're almost never violent. They're small thefts, quietly planned, deliberately executed. Acts of quiet desperation. Not rebellion. Not greed. Just a way to be noticed. In interview after interview, elderly offenders repeat the same haunting phrase: "I didn't want to steal. I just didn't want to be alone anymore." Imagine that. In a country where respect for elders is woven deep into the cultural fabric, where seniors are traditionally revered, some have been pushed to such isolation that they turn to crime. Not for gain, not for harm, but simply for basic human contact. Why does this happen? The answer, tragically, is cold and mathematical. The support system didn't scale fast enough. Families fragmented under modern pressures. Cities grew taller, but communities grew thinner. Pride kept many from asking for help. And now, for some, prison offers what home no longer can: warmth, meals, conversation. And here's the chilling reflection I want you to sit with. What does it say about a society when a jail cell feels more like home than home itself? When committing a crime feels like the only way to be seen, to be cared for, to be human again? Let's talk about this in the comments. And if this story moved you, even a little, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because the stories no one wants to look at are the ones we can't afford to ignore. And trust me, there's so much more beneath the surface. Stay with me. The average pension in Japan hovers around $800 a month. But in a Tokyo suburb, rent alone can swallow nearly all of that. Add groceries, electricity, heating, medication, and suddenly the math stops working. There's no wiggle room. No safety net. Just a quiet countdown until the money runs out. And then, there's the isolation. Many of Japan's elderly haven't had a genuine conversation in days, sometimes weeks. Their world shrinks to a silent routine. Meals alone, TV murmuring in the background, a calendar that's more empty than full. For some, the walls of their apartment begin to feel less like shelter and more like a cage. Yet inside prison, there's structure, schedules, Meals shared in a cafeteria instead of alone at a kitchen table. A nurse who checks their blood pressure. People who greet them by name. In a strange, heartbreaking twist, prison becomes the closest thing they have to family. Even prison officials have noticed this shift. Some correctional facilities have quietly evolved into makeshift elder care centers. Inmates receive daily medication management, physical therapy sessions, even social activities tailored for seniors. It's as if the prison walls, originally built for punishment, have been repurposed into a last refuge for the forgotten. Now let's step back for a moment and look globally. In the United States, we're no strangers to overcrowded prisons, flawed justice systems, rising incarceration rates. But here's the difference. Choosing prison as a better alternative to freedom? In America, that's almost unheard of. In Japan, it's becoming disturbingly common. Because in Japan, it's not about escaping justice. It's about escaping loneliness. And here lies the deeper, more haunting truth. This isn't really a story about crime. It's a story about care. Or rather, what happens when a society slowly, quietly stops caring for its most vulnerable members? When the oldest generation, those who once built, served, and sacrificed, find themselves invisible in the very country they helped create. But the elderly aren't the only ones struggling to find a place to rest their heads. There's another hidden population in Japan, quietly living in the margins. They're not under bridges or on sidewalks. Sometimes, they sleep in places you'd never expect, like internet cafes. At first glance, it's easy to assume Japan has solved homelessness. Walk through Shibuya, Tokyo Station, or Osaka's business districts, and you'll see gleaming streets, impeccably clean public spaces, neat lines of pedestrians. No tents. No crowds in doorways. No cardboard signs asking for change. But look a little closer. Behind train stations. Under highway overpasses. In 24-hour manga cafes, fast food chains, tiny karaoke rooms. That's where they are. A hidden population slipping through the cracks, not begging, not drawing attention, simply disappearing politely. Official statistics in 2023 counted just 3,400 homeless people across all of Japan. Think about that. In a nation of 125 million people, that's a homelessness rate of 0.003%. On paper, it's almost non-existent. But talk to experts, social workers, even government insiders, and they'll tell you, the real number is much higher. Why? Because in Japan, poverty doesn't stand on street corners. It hides. And often, it's expected to. In recent years, a quiet phenomenon has begun surfacing. The rise of the net cafe refugees. They're mostly young men in their 20s and 30s. They work part-time gigs, minimum wage jobs, temp contracts. In Tokyo, that means about 1,000 yen an hour, roughly $7 US. Enough for a rice bowl. Enough for a ticket on the train. But not enough for rent. So every night, they scrape together just enough to rent a booth in a 24-hour manga cafe. Imagine a space barely large enough for a reclining chair, a small table, a glowing screen. That's their home. A cubicle surrounded by soft walls, filled with the hum of other unseen strangers, each one quietly trying to disappear. For them, the cafe is both refuge and prison. It's where they sleep, wash up in a shared bathroom, charge their phones. A place where no one asks questions, no one pries, no one judges. But it's not really living. It's surviving, one night at a time. Here's the unsettling truth. Japan's hidden homelessness doesn't wear the face of a beggar on a corner. It wears a white shirt and tie. It holds a smartphone. It blends into the crowd. And here's what I want you to reflect on. What does it mean when poverty is invisible? When loneliness hides in plain sight? When a society's most vulnerable vanish without anyone noticing? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if this opened your eyes to a Japan few outsiders ever see, please, like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because sometimes the stories we don't see are the ones we most urgently need to tell. Stay with me. There's still so much more beneath the surface. They sleep. They wash up, if the place offers a shower. They live, night after night, inside narrow cubicles that blur the line between shelter and cell. Japan's Ministry of Health once estimated that over 5,000 people live like this long-term. But social workers and NGOs quietly say the real figure is likely double that, closer to 10,000 in Tokyo alone. Technically, they're not counted as homeless. But they have no home. Take the story of a 29-year-old delivery worker. At first, I felt ashamed, he admitted. But I'm just trying to survive. This is the only place I can afford. And at least here, I'm not completely alone. Out of sight. Out of mind. Unlike the stark visibility of homelessness in many Western cities, Japan's poverty hides itself. You won't see sprawling tent encampments beneath overpasses. No lines of people holding cardboard signs. No aggressive panhandling at busy intersections. Why? It's partly policy. It's partly culture. The Japanese government actively works to remove rough sleepers from high-traffic public spaces. Local businesses discourage loitering. Parks close at night. And perhaps most powerfully, there's a deep-rooted social expectation. Don't be a burden. So many people simply hide. Some disappear into capsule hotels. Others rent a bunk in cheap, aging boarding houses tucked into the forgotten corners of Tokyo. And some vanish completely. In contrast, cities like San Francisco, New York, or Los Angeles wear their homelessness like an open wound, visible, undeniable, sometimes chaotic. Tied up with mental illness, addiction, failing services. But Japan's tragedy is quieter, more polite, but no less painful. And poverty in Japan isn't just a matter of sleeping outdoors. It's a deeper wound, the working poor. Over 16% of Japan's population lives below the poverty line, one of the highest rates among developed nations. Single mothers carry a brutal share of that weight. Many work 2, 3, even 4 jobs, yet still struggle to afford food, school supplies, rent. Unlike the US, where systems like food stamps, public housing, and welfare provide some safety net, Japan's welfare system is notoriously difficult to access. A labyrinth of paperwork, bureaucratic red tape, and, perhaps most crushing of all, deep cultural stigma. There's even an old saying, "You must starve with dignity." Because here, asking for help can feel like failing. But there are places where Japan's quiet poverty isn't just hidden, it's concentrated. Where the economic miracle never quite arrived. And one of them doesn't even officially exist on the map. Most outsiders don't associate Japan with slums. But they exist. They've always existed. They're just harder to find. Because even Japan's poverty is expected to behave. To stay tidy. To stay invisible. Welcome to Kamagasaki in Osaka. And to Sanya in Tokyo. 2 neighborhoods so intertwined with hardship, crime, and homelessness that city officials quietly erase them from official signage and maps. But they're still there. And so are the people. Tucked just behind Osaka's gleaming business district, Kamagasaki is home to an estimated 25,000 residents. Many are elderly, jobless, surviving off-day labor gigs. Once known openly as Japan's largest slum, it's now rebranded in official records as Erin District. A linguistic attempt to soften its reputation, or erase it. But the signs remain. Tiny concrete apartments stacked like shoeboxes. Long lines outside soup kitchens. A labor center where men gather every dawn, hoping to be picked for cash-in-hand construction work. Most won't get chosen. Some haven't been hired in years. At night, many return to communal sleeping rooms. 8 beds squeezed into one space, separated only by thin curtains if they're lucky. Others sip cheap alcohol in silence, or gather around a communal television that plays just 2 hours a day. Kamagasaki is only a 15-minute walk from Abino Harukas, Japan's tallest skyscraper. The contrast is staggering. A slum in the shadow of a tower that symbolizes prosperity. Across the country, in Tokyo, lies another forgotten place, Sanya. Once a bustling hub for manual laborers and social outcasts, Sanya doesn't appear on modern maps. Its name was deliberately erased in the 1960s as part of a citywide effort to cleanse Tokyo's image ahead of the 1964 Olympics. But Sanya never really disappeared. You can still feel it, see it, smell it. Here, day laborers gather in the early hours, hoping for work. Cheap hotels charge by the night or by the hour, for men living paycheck to paycheck. Buildings sag under the weight of humidity and time. Respectability never quite reached these streets. Many residents are former construction workers, men who once helped build the Tokyo skyline. Now they survive on meager welfare checks and fading memories. One man told a local journalist, "We built this city. Now we're the ghosts walking through it." Urban ghost zones. What makes Kamagasaki and Sanya so haunting isn't just their poverty. It's their erasure. In America, neighborhoods like Skid Row in Los Angeles or the South Bronx in New York are stigmatized but acknowledged. Their names are known. Their problems visible. But in Japan, these places have been linguistically and symbolically airbrushed away. No one says Kamagasaki anymore. It's Erin. No one says Sanya. It's Kiyakawa. Out of name, out of mind. And yet, they persist. Quiet, resilient, forgotten. And inside these erased neighborhoods, something rare happens. Community. Despite the hardship, people talk to each other. They know their neighbors. They look out for one another in ways that feel almost foreign in Japan's fast-paced, hyper-private cities. These places are harsh, but they're real. And still, even Kamagasaki and Sanya offer shelter. But what happens when you're not lucky enough to even find your way here? What happens when the system doesn't break you with poverty, but with pressure? There's another kind of silent suffering in Japan. It doesn't live in slums. It doesn't sleep under bridges. It lives behind closed doors. And it affects a generation that never left their rooms. Tell me, what happens to a society when its invisible walls trap people in silence? Let's reflect together in the comments. And if this story uncovered a side of Japan you've never seen before, please hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because the stories that hide in the shadows are the ones that most need light. Stay tuned. We're only beginning to pull back the curtain. Every culture has its version of the grind. But in Japan, the grind doesn't just wear you down. It can kill you. There's a word in Japanese that has no direct translation in English, karoshi. It means death by overwork. Not a metaphor. Not burnout in the corporate sense. Actual, physical death. Death from a heart attack, a stroke, or the irreversible breaking of a human spirit under unrelenting hours, unyielding pressure, and a system where no one feels allowed to say, enough. Japan is a nation that runs on the clock. Its work ethic is legendary. Images of office workers passed out in their suits on commuter trains. Office buildings glowing well past midnight. Workers silently proud of never taking a vacation, because to take time off might inconvenience their colleagues. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Secret Journeys channel to explore the world and various exotic places for free. It's a culture built on endurance. But for some, it's endurance with no finish line. Take the story of Miwa Saito, a 24-year-old woman who worked at Japan's national broadcaster, NHK. In a single month, she clocked 159 hours of overtime. She died alone in her apartment. Cause of death: heart failure. The official cause? Karoshi. Her story made headlines. And then, like so many others, it quietly faded away. She wasn't the first. She wasn't the last. Government data shows hundreds of deaths from karoshi every year. And many more go unreported, quietly swept under labels like stress, natural causes, fatigue. Why does it happen? Japan's labor culture is shaped by deep, inherited values. Gamen, the quiet endurance of hardship. Shikataganai, the acceptance of what cannot be helped. Loyalty to the company, even at the expense of self. Leaving work before your boss? Disrespectful. Saying no to overtime? Unthinkable. Taking paid vacation? Technically allowed, but fewer than 50% of Japanese workers use their leave every year. Compare that to the US, where labor laws, unions, lawsuits, and even a growing embrace of work-life balance push back against excessive hours. In Japan, despite its futuristic tech, corporate culture remains anchored in the past, and it's costing lives. But karoshi isn't just about long hours. It's about a deeper, darker feeling. The inability to stop. The fear that if you rest, you fail. The belief that you're irreplaceable, and replaceable at the same time. That rest equals shame. That stopping is a silent death sentence of its own. And here's the chilling part. The pressure doesn't vanish when the office lights go dark. For many, it follows them home. Or worse, traps them there. What happens when you burn out, but feel too ashamed to admit it? When the world tells you to keep pushing, but your soul is waving a white flag. Some people don't collapse in public. They don't cry for help on the streets. They simply retreat. Not into homelessness, not into crime, but into their rooms. And they stay there. For weeks, months, years, sometimes decades. In a small apartment on the outskirts of Tokyo, a young man sits in the dark. He hasn't spoken to anyone face-to-face in weeks. He orders food online. He showers at night. He avoids the windows during the day. He doesn't work. He doesn't study. He doesn't leave. He is a Hikikomori, a member of Japan's invisible generation of recluses. And he's not alone. Japan's Cabinet Office estimates that more than 1.5 million people, mostly men in their 20s to 40s, live as Hikikomori, physically healthy, but emotionally withdrawn from society. Some experts believe the true number is closer to 2 million. They call them the missing million. But what causes a Hikikomori life? It's rarely one dramatic event. More often, it's a slow unraveling: school bullying, family expectations, job failure, anxiety, shame, exhaustion. A quiet series of moments where the outside world becomes too heavy, too loud, too judgmental, and so they disappear. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Secret Journeys channel to explore the world and various exotic places for free. In a society where success is mandatory and failure is private, many see no safe place to process their pain. So they hide. There's no official diagnosis. No treatment plan. Just a growing silence inside childhood bedrooms and basement apartments. Places where 40-year-olds still live with their parents, barely speaking a word. One mother confessed, "I hear him moving at night, but we haven't made eye contact in 6 months." Some Hikikomori haven't felt sunlight on their skin in years. And for parents, the burden is crushing. Emotionally, financially, spiritually. They fear for their children's futures. But more urgently, they fear what will happen after they die. Japan even has a name for this haunting worry: the 80 to 50 problem. Parents in their 80s still supporting children in their 50s who never launched, never escaped their room, never found their way forward. But here's the kicker. At first glance, Hikikomori might seem uniquely Japanese. But researchers have begun finding parallels elsewhere. In South Korea, in Italy, even in the US. The loneliness epidemic. The lure of virtual worlds. The crushing weight of societal expectations. These aren't Japanese problems. They're human problems, amplified by modern life. Still, Japan was the first country to name it, to measure it, to quietly watch a generation vanish, one bedroom at a time. Efforts are underway. There are support programs now. Social workers known as rental sisters who visit Hikikomori regularly, sometimes for years before a single conversation happens. There are job training centers, peer groups, even virtual therapy programs. But recovery is slow, and many never return. Because you can't force someone to rejoin a society that never made space for their differences in the first place. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Secret Journeys channel to explore the world and various exotic places for free. In the end, Hikikomori isn't just about hiding. It's a mirror reflecting a world that demands so much, yet gives so little room to stumble. A world that celebrates resilience, but forgets to catch those who fall. And for Japan's lost generation, silence became safer than the noise. But while the youth vanish quietly, the elderly live longer than ever. And for a country that once rose from the ashes of war, here's the question looming ahead. Can Japan survive its own demographic collapse? What does Japan's quiet crisis teach us about the price of progress? About how we care for one another when no one's watching? In the world's imagination, Japan is a place of perfection. Bullet trains arriving to the second. Streets spotless without a trash can in sight. Vending machines serving hot meals. School children walking to class alone in safety. But behind that brilliance, there's a contradiction. A society that works so hard to be perfect, it forgot how to be vulnerable. From elderly committing petty crimes just to be seen, to Hikikomori choosing silence over shame, to workers dying quietly at their desks. Japan's struggles don't always scream in protest. They fade beneath the noise, hidden by politeness, softened by ritual, protected by silence. Yet those struggles are deeply human and painfully familiar. Is there hope? Yes. But like many things in Japan, change moves slowly. The government has started funding more mental health services, improving childbearing incentives, encouraging corporate reforms around work-life balance. Social entrepreneurs are launching community cafes for the elderly. Former Hikikomori are returning as peer counselors. Local governments are revitalizing ghost towns, turning abandoned schools into shared housing. But perhaps the biggest shift isn't in policy. It's cultural. It's the willingness to talk, to listen, to admit that even in a society built on dignity and resilience, people still fall. And they deserve to fall safely. Because whether in Tokyo or Texas, Kyoto or Kansas, the real question isn't how efficiently a nation runs. It's how gently it catches those who can't keep up. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Secret Journeys channel to explore the world and various exotic places for free. What can we learn from Japan? It offers more than a cautionary tale. It offers a perspective. That success without rest can cost lives. That respect without connection can breed loneliness. That progress without compassion can quietly become cruelty. And maybe that's the universal truth hiding beneath it all. A thriving society isn't measured by GDP, or skyscrapers, or bullet trains. It's measured by how it treats the people no one else sees. So the next time you marvel at Japan's order, elegance, and perfection, as you should, remember the people behind the curtain. The ones who stayed silent, who vanished quietly, who are still waiting to be seen. Because behind every neon light, there's a shadow. If this story made you pause or reflect, let me know in the comments. Hit that like button if you believe stories like this deserve to be told. And don't forget to subscribe. Because here, we're not just traveling places. We're exploring the human experience, one story at a time. The next chapter is already on its way, and I'd love for you to be part of it.